Hello and welcome to Aurelian University. In this video, we're going to talk about strings. So strings are one of the data types we discussed earlier. Strings are a sequence of characters, so text. So what I have highlighted here would be a string. They occur within quotes. They can be either single quotes or double quotes. So what we had before and this are both equally appropriate. The reason for both of them being allowed is partially so that you can have one of those, either single or double quotes, within the string. There are other ways to do that too, so it's not strictly speaking necessary, but so strings are always in some sort of quotes, either single quotes or double quotes, and they can be manipulated with operators. So we have this variable called string1, and it's assigned to this string, which is this is a string. String2 is string1 plus string1. So that would be this string repeated, essentially one after the other. String3 is string1 times 10, so we use the multiplication operator. And I'll let you guess what that is, but we'll see in just a second for sure what it is. And string4 is string1, and then this is what's called, so before we were using operators, plus and multiply, just like we would use in math with numbers. But here we have something different, right? So strings can also be manipulated with special functions called methods. In an earlier video, we briefly talked about how when you have some sort of a name and then some stuff in a parentheses, or maybe just an opening and closing parentheses without anything in the middle, those are called functions. So strings are what are called objects. We'll talk more about objects later. But objects can be manipulated with what are called methods, which are certain sorts of functions that can only be used with a certain sort of object. So strings have their very own function or method that's called replace. So if we want to take this string, that is, this is a string, and replace something in it, we call this method, which is a utility function sort of thing, and we tell it what we want to replace in there and what we want to replace it with, and it will replace it. So this will replace A with A great. Now there are all sorts of functions that work on strings and also with other sorts of objects. We'll cover a lot of functions, maybe not all of them, probably all of the string functions, all of the string methods in later videos, because this video is just to give you the hang of working with strings. But these are different ways that we can manipulate strings as a data type. If you try to do this with a number, if you try to say 1,000 and replace all zeros with a 1, it wouldn't work the same way as it does with a string. So this is one of the places where knowing a sort of data type is actually very important, knowing how the data types are different. So we will run this code, Python 3, strings.py. So for the first one we get this is a string, which makes sense. That's the value stored in the variable. Second one we get this is a string twice. The third one we get this is a string printed out 10 times. So the multiplication operator, when you use it with a string, it will just multiply the string 10 times. It will put the string back to back 10 times. And that will be stored in variable 3. And then string 4, it replaces A with a great. So it says this is a great string.